Hey guys, welcome back to the show. I'm Parker Emerald,
And I'm Joe Hobbs.
and this is the Conversation Station. I have Joe here, and why don't you just start off by telling him a little bit about yourself, like your background, what you do, our relation to each other?
Well, our relation to each other is your mom is my cousin. So we just Googled it and we realized that you and I are cousins once removed, which is such a weird way of defining that relationship.
Dude, it sounds like one of us was disowned or something. Freaking just.
You're my cousin once removed, but we're bringing you back or bringing me back. Someone's coming back, but they were removed at one point. Yeah, it sounds really impersonal.
Yeah, whenever I hear like cousin once removed, like I've heard that term used before, and I was always like, wait, so is that like if someone got disowned or like were they like did they go missing? Like
That's funny.
what kind of removal happened here?
Exactly. Leaves a lot open to the imagination. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm your cousin once removed. You're my cousin once removed, just meaning that your mom is my first cousin. So um, that's my relation to you. I've seen you since you were a little boy, growing up to this incredible young man that you are today. And it's been such an honor and privilege to be a part of your life and see you occasionally throughout the year when the families get together. And it's just been a joy to see you coming into your own, Parker. And I'm really honored to be here today.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. So, what's cuz I know you've done a lot of stuff in your life. So, what do you want to tell them about as your or what where do you want to start in terms of background of who you are?
In terms of background, well, there's all the usual stuff. I came from California. I was born in a little city about an hour north of Sacramento. Have two brothers. Grew up in a house. I was homeschooled most of my life and worked for my dad at a young age. Did a lot of construction and been mostly self-employed up until the last maybe 5 years. I've been working for a solar company off and on. And yeah, really balancing for a while. I was traveling a lot. In my 20s, I traveled extensively and went all over. Um, and then I met the most amazing woman and have settled down. And now I'm experiencing a different kind of adventure, and that's being a dad. We've got a 1.5-year-old son, and it's just a wild adventure seeing him grow and being a part of that experience, the experience of shaping this little human to someday be a big human. Wow.
Yeah.
So that's my adventure right now.
Bodie is so cute. He's just like
It's cute.
running around. Loves to try to jump out of the back of the car when I had him sat there. I kept having to grab him and like, no, don't jump down. He was
Yeah, he wants to go. He wants to go for sure. Yesterday, I came around the corner and found him sitting on the kitchen table. And it's crazy to see him learning new skills because with every new skill comes new boundaries. And
yeah.
there's some interesting parallels, I think, for the rest of the life there. He learns to do something new, and then all of a sudden, we got to say, okay, don't climb on the kitchen table. We don't do that. Or he started going on walks with me and actually walking. Now we go down the road and take our dog Butters on a walk after dinner. And it's been having Bodie in the carrier, the kangaroo carrier. When he got too big for that, I put him in a wheelbarrow and I would push him down the road in a wheelbarrow. And
That's
now he
awesome.
walked with me. Yeah, he loved it. It was fun. And then he started walking. So he went on a walk with me the other day and actually did his own walking. And he was so proud of himself. He was tromping down the road and then he wanted to go see something off in the jungle. And he started tromping off, and I had to stop him because I know that if he gets out there into the jungle, there's a bunch of fire ants in that
Oh
part of
God.
the neighborhood. It's like, no, you can't go over there, buddy. And he doesn't understand that. He's just like, what? And tries to go to the right. So I scoot over. And then he goes the other way and I try and scoot over. And I'm just blocking him wherever he goes. And he's getting so pissed off, just crying and screaming in his little year-and-a-half-old way. I'm like, bro, you can walk now. So I got to help you go where it's safe. And this is not safe.
Yeah. they don't tell you it then, but when you do when you're learning basketball and they teach you your defensive stance, you don't even know then how useful it's going to be later on.
Right. Those moves come in handy. Oh man, and they do. Those fast moves come in handy. He was sitting on a table the other day, put his feet up on the chair. He was sitting on a chair, put his feet up on the table, and kicked back, and his whole chair started going over backwards. And it was a little ninja move to grab him and keep him from going down. Keeps me on my toes, for sure.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah, yeah. So that's just a very brief bit of my background and kind of what I'm doing right now. Living in Hawaii, we've been here for 8 years. We were going to come over for 1 year. We decided, let's go for 1 year. We had a job opportunity. And then after that 1 year, we loved it so much, we just stayed and we're still here. And we talk about going back, moving back to the mainland, but we're still here. It's like the longer we
Yeah,
stay here, the deeper the roots go, and the harder it is to leave.
yeah, because you get more of a community and more attachments to the people in that area and just the area.
Totally. Totally. And that is such an important part of finding fulfillment, I'm realizing in life, is those meaningful relationships. And having those is tough to say goodbye and start over making them in a new place.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. So I know that when well, hold on, I'm trying to think. I just had I had a question and then my mind just completely blanked out.
That'll happen. I do that all the time.
Um.
Usually because I'm trying to think of too many things at one time. I'm trying to think about this and I'm trying to think about that, and then they cancel each other out, and then I'm thinking about nothing.
Totally, because like trying to think about the things you're saying, and like things we talked about when you were here, and I'm like trying
Yeah.
to, and then I'm trying to link. I don't even know what my question was right now, and I was trying to link my question to what you had been talking about, and then it just all exploded and it was gone.
Yeah. And you know there's a link. There was a link there because your brain was going for it, and then it just kind of evaporated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. You know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of the benefit of taking time every day and thinking about nothing.
oh
And
yeah, like
how,
meditation.
yeah, meditation, or even that word for me is kind of, it comes with a lot of like intellectual baggage. And I think, what is meditation? Just sitting there, light some incense, put on some Om music, you know. But the real benefit for me is just taking time to let my mind just focus and not think about a bazillion things. And then if I can do that for a little bit, then when I go to think about a bazillion things, it's easier to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I have not done that much meditation or anything. I think sometimes for me, like hearing that Om music, I can't help but laugh because it just sounds funny. Like it's got benefits, but just hearing Om, it just has this funny feel to it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's got its place for sure. It can be helpful to drop into a good meditative headspace, but it can also be distracting just like anything else.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Yep.
So, uh, so you live in Hawaii, and one thing I'm curious about because I think when people think of Hawaii, they think of almost this almost fantasy paradise land because when you go there on a trip, it's like, just it's Hawaii. I mean, but my question for you is what are some of the like unforeseen like drawbacks, whether it's the climate or other things or weather or something, which I don't know who would be complaining about Hawaii weather, but like what are some of the drawbacks?
Sure. Well, there's an active volcano. We live on the Big Island, which is one of the more affordable places to live, and it's really appealing because it's spread out. It's very rural. There's not a lot of people, so it's very attractive to live here. But there is an active volcano, and it was 4 years ago. It went off and destroyed. It almost destroyed a whole town. It got a quarter mile away from downtown Pahoa, And then 2 years later, it erupted again, and it actually did destroy about 700 homes. And that just
Wow.
caused an immense amount of upheaval and chaos in the community and suffering and sadness. And that was a pretty tough event. It took out the boat ramp in that corner of the area. It took out some beautiful parks, and
That's
it was,
crazy.
yeah, in a lot of ways, it was sad. So that's a drawback. That's a little bit unsettling. Being in the middle of Pacific, we have hurricane season, so there's that potentiality, which I'm a little excited about. I love the big storms. Um, but there could always be a destructive hurricane too, for that matter.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in that aspect, there is some weather to be concerned about. I'm seeing a lot of the drawbacks actually with Bodhi, with my son, because the most dangerous stuff is all on the ground. And as he's crawling around and putting things in his mouth, we're seeing like, oh my God, paradise is dangerous because we've got the little fire ants that are teeny, teeny, teeny little red ants, and they're everywhere. And their bite can hurt like a bee sting and last for an hour or more. So we've got these little fire ants everywhere, and then we've got centipedes, which also inflict a nasty bite, and they're on the ground under things. And then we've also got slugs that carry a brain parasite. And if you accidentally ingest a slug, either from your garden lettuce or something, or in Bodhi's case, he just picked one up off the ground one day and put it in his mouth and chewed on it. Um, you could get a brain parasite from the slug.
Jeez.
And we had this moment after we put the slug in his mouth and we saw it and he spit it out, but we still had to take him to the urgent care and get some medicine prescribed for him to treat it early. If you treat it early, it's not a concern. Um, but in that moment, we're sitting there in urgent care waiting to see the doctor with Bodhi, and we know there's a potential that he's just ingested slime that has this parasite that's going to make its way to his brain. And it's just like, wow, this is paradise and this is crazy. It's like, as beautiful and wonderful as it is, there's also something on the other side to balance it out.
Yeah, wow, that's crazy. Just a harmless little slug just sitting there minding its own
It's like
business, carrying a freaking brain parasite. It's gonna just
minding its own business, and then all of a sudden, this giant creature reaches down,
ew.
picks it up. From the slug's perspective, that's also very unenjoyable experience.
Yeah, yeah, that's just the slug's revenge.
Yeah. Yep. So
That's
we love it. There's also, like anywhere you go, there's two sides to everything. There's a balance. There's a yin and a yang happening in the universe. So those are some of the challenges of paradise.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's like you said, it's how it is with everywhere. But I think that somewhere a lot of these places like Hawaii are so almost people think they're almost immune to that where they think
Mhm.
of Hawaii of this paradise where nothing could go wrong.
Right. But it's
But
just not true.
no, it's not. It's
Nope. And it's like that anywhere.
it's
It's
not
like
how
that
the
anywhere.
world
You've got,
works.
it's not how it works. Right. Exactly. The grass is
Yeah.
not greener on the other side.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very curious about in a place like Hawaii, how much more expensive are things than like here?
A lot. Although you guys have higher gas price, which is funny.
Well, yeah, we're California, so that's
In
just kind of
California.
how we
Yep.
roll.
Yep. Yeah. Cost of living is another challenge. I wasn't going to bring that up because that's more of a boring topic. But yeah, cost of living is up there in Hawaii. It's something. Things are very expensive, and it's tough to find good, hardworking people to help in business and things like that. The culture is very relaxed and kick back, and that's one of the things we love about it. But the other side of that is that if you're trying to hustle and you're looking for people who can hustle, it can be tough to find those people to partner with in business.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely the vibe Hawaii just gives off of just like it feels like the theme of Hawaii would just be ukulele playing in the background.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. Um I have a question for you. What has been the most unexpected or just difficulty you've had with becoming a father?
Mm, wow, what a question. Let's see. I think the most challenging thing I've experienced so far is noticing my anger when I get woken up 5 times in the night. I've been able to be really calm and I think a pretty even keeled father. But a challenge has been, and not so much now, but when Bodhi was younger, it was seeing him wake up over and over again and just being at the end of my limit, being totally exhausted and seeing myself get mad, really mad, like, oh, how could you do this to me? You're ruining my sleep again. Oh. And then looking at that and thinking, how could I be so mad at a little innocent baby, you know? And so finding some acceptance for that and realizing that I'm exhausted and it's okay to be mad about being woken up for the fourth time in the middle of the night. Finding that acceptance and then working through it and getting to a point where I just, all right, this is what's happening. Waking up again and just going through it with a happy attitude. That was the most
Yeah,
challenging thing.
yeah. I
Yeah.
can imagine. I mean, if someone wakes me up even just a little extra early, I'm grumpy because I didn't get my sleep, but multiple times
Mhm.
throughout the night sounds brutal.
And then you're holding this little creature that's screaming right next to your ear, and it seems like nothing you do can help, and it feels so helpless. And there's other things happening there too. And I believe that everything that happens is bringing us closer to our greatest good and our highest happiness. But in those moments when he was screaming in the middle of the night, it was hard to see how that was helping me be a better person.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
I can
It's
see it looking
really
back.
yeah, it's really interesting to me how easily anger warps the mind.
Hmm. Hmm.
How yeah, you could take something completely good, but then throw a little anger from something else and now you're angry. Like take let's say, I don't know, going to a store and getting a free sandwich. It's random, but who wouldn't be happy about that? It's free, right? And
Yeah.
they're just
Hmm.
and then let's say you're angry about something earlier in the day and then they give you the free sandwich and they put a little less mayo than you would have wanted and now you're all grumpy because you didn't get your mayo when they just gave you a free sandwich.
Hmm. Hmm.
Not
It
the
can be
best
easy to lose
example, but
perspective.
yeah.
No, but it does portray that it's easy for a person to lose perspective and see what's wrong with the world instead of what's right with it.
It really
Instead of
is.
seeing that, hey, I've got this baby who's healthy and growing and happy, and he's crying right now, but I've got a great baby. Instead of that, in the moment, I see I've got this super annoying little baby that won't shut the heck up. You know,
Yeah.
losing perspective for a little bit, and that's okay. That's a part of learning. That's a part of the whole life experience, isn't it? I was going to ask you, Parker, where do you see maybe in your life, what's an area that you've seen anger come up and kind of do what you
Oh,
said, kind of warp a situation?
probably with like my little brother. Just
Yeah.
like when like because he's interested in what I'm doing, but
Hmm.
when if something's frustrating me or if it's just for the fifth time in the last
Hmm.
hour, he came in and
Hmm.
asked me what I'm doing, and then
Hmm.
when he comes in and I'm like, "Oh, I'm working on something on my computer." And then he's like, "What?" And then I'm like, and then he just keeps asking what like kids do. It
Hmm.
Instead of seeing that, hey, I've got this cool younger brother who's interested in what I'm doing and wants to know
Yeah.
what I'm up to and wants to
Yeah.
hang
Right.
out. I see
Hmm.
this annoying little kid who's just every time I'm doing something, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you
Hmm.
doing?
Hmm.
So I think that's one of the biggest places for me because it's like that's how it kind of is with little siblings is they can very easily even unintentionally be annoying because they want attention. And when you
Hmm.
have any sort of anger built up, it's really easy just to lash out.
Yeah. Yep. I like how you started that, seeing that he just wants to know what you're doing and he wants to be involved and he wants to do what you want
Yeah,
to do, probably to an extent. And those are all beautiful things. But yeah, it can be easy to lose sight of those things when those emotions come up, like anger and even hurt and fear, and
totally.
they can all, yeah, warp things, warp the perspective. I think that's one reason it's good to have friends who can be trusted, who can speak into our lives and say, I think your perspective's a little warped on that there. You know what I mean? And people we can
Yeah,
share our experiences with and who can really help us kind of stay on course and bring something up. Because when you're
totally.
in that emotion, right? If it's anger or fear, it's hard sometimes to even see that you're in it because you're just reacting out of it because it's so real and it's so alive that it's hard to step back and see that it's even happening. It's just all consuming, at least for me when I was really angry and I was in those moments in the middle of the night. It took a while for me to be able to recognize at the same time, like, oh, wow, okay, it's happening. I'm getting really angry. The first few times it was just like the Hulk, they're just so
Yeah,
mad. And then after the awareness built, I was like, okay, it's happening again. I'm getting mad. But friends can be there to help point that out too. It's like, all right, this is that thing you do.
yeah,
You know.
and it can come with things besides anger. Like if you're so focused on something, and then you fail to see that what you're focused on is completely out of whack.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I think that just emotions in general can really warp things. And sometimes they warp them for good and sometimes it's bad, but emotions so easily warp the world.
Yeah, and they are really contingent on what a person thinks about too, because whatever we think about and focus our conscious mind on is what our energy body is going to respond to. And something that's been very helpful for me getting my feelings kind of articulated has been this book called Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. It's really given me a framework to talk about what I'm feeling instead of just feeling it and reacting out of it.
Yeah.
So there's a little plug for that. That's been a helpful thing. And he gives a specific framework for separating what I'm thinking from what I'm feeling, which before was just kind of a jumbled all the same thing in my brain. But it gets very clear on what is a feeling and what is a thought. And when I separate those, it's a lot easier to communicate what it is I'm actually feeling.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll check that out and I'll link it in the description of the episode for if anyone in the audience wants to check it out.
Oh, cool.
So I have a question for you, kind of based off of these things, because I think emotions has a lot to do with it, and you're thinking, in your opinion, what defines maturity?
Oh, wow. Good questions, Parker. In my opinion, what defines maturity? I don't know if I could give just a one one soundbite type of answer, but what comes to mind when I think of maturity would be patience and awareness, the ability to see what's happening instead of just reacting, and experience. I think is a part of maturity. Someone who's got experience with something.
Hmm. Yeah.
There's a saying I used to really like that goes, a man with experience is never at the mercy of a man with an opinion. So someone who's been there, done that is never subject to someone who's like, I have an opinion on how that should go. The guy who's done it, he knows. So,
Yeah.
I think that's part of
Yeah.
maturity. How about you? What do you think?
Um,
defines maturity?
okay, I was just making sure that you could hear me because my microphone was glitching out before this call.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but
Oh, sounds good.
I don't know. I've asked this question to lots of people on like our on like the mentorship program I'm in and have been in for the last year. I've asked it a lot, and I've never had it thrown back at me. So I don't know. It's a really tough question because
Hmm.
I mean, like all of I don't know if I have an answer because I don't know if I have enough life experience to give a good answer because but what I've seen from all of the people I've asked this question to is it usually has something to do with awareness.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Let's say we take out any notion of a right or a wrong answer and just say, what does maturity mean to you right now where you're at? With the understanding that it could very well change over the course of your life. But what does it mean right now for you?
I think it definitely has to do with being self-aware and being able to look at yourself and see what you're doing wrong, and maybe you need friends to help you with that, but at least but even knowing that you need people
Mhm,
there to help you see so
mhm,
that you're not caught up in that headspace where you may be doing so many different things wrong, but you aren't even thinking or you don't even know that you're doing any of it wrong,
mhm,
and being able to be self-aware. And I think that's something I've looked back on and realized how non-self-aware I've been in the past, where with, for instance, video editing, if I look back at myself when I started thinking I knew everything, and I look at
mhm,
myself now and I'm like, you knew nothing. So then the logical step is to then realize that, but then also be like, okay, well, then that probably means now, even with my added knowledge, that I know nothing. And I think that
mhm,
even though I think that's something that can be really, really difficult to
mhm,
realize and really legitimize in your mind, because I think that's one of the things that humans want to do is they want to feel like they know what's going on and they want to kind of
yes.
know exactly what to do and where to go. But
Totally.
sometimes the key to knowing that is knowing that you don't.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a great rule that Jordan Peterson gives in his book, 12 Rules for Life. Um, I'm going to look it up because I want to get it right, but it speaks to what you just said. Um, all right, I'll have to get back to you on that. But it goes something like assume the person you're listening to knows something you don't.
Oh, yes. Yeah, totally.
And that really speaks to that awareness of where you're at and or where a person is at and how much there's always room to learn more and there's always room. And so that awareness of just knowing that there is more, there's always more that could be learned. And we might look back and think our definition of maturity today was not very mature, or we might look back and think it's mature.
Yeah,
But
totally. And I think
yeah.
the almost one of the things that another thing that defines maturity is knowing that you're always going to look back and realize you were immature in some way at the time. You're never going
Yeah.
to look back way down
Right.
the line unless something crazy happens. And you're never really realistically going to look back and be like, "Oh, I was way more mature then than I am now. I was way better at what I'm doing." It's
Mhm.
not it's not really
It's
how
not
it
generally how it
works.
works. No, it's not, right? We're always getting better. So I wanted to ask you what's something that is a practice that you found that helps maintain or develop that awareness?
Yeah. For for me, I don't really know. It's just kind of I don't think I've ever really done something super intentionally. Um I think I'll reflect on like things that have happened now and again
Mhm.
when those events come up in my mind. Um I don't really know if I have one thing that I do consistently. Um Well, something cool is like when I'm messaging with one of my really good friends from the Apogee program who I've been really close friends with for months, and I'm going to stay with him in Wisconsin for 2 weeks in July. But what we do is we use Discord, and you can pin messages, and we kind of have pinned messages throughout the time, so you can just kind of scroll back and then click and get taken back almost as a time portal back to that time and look at the things I was saying even 3 months ago. And I think
Mm.
one of the biggest things is like because I've been kind of making videos, so a lot of some of them aren't posted, but just doing stuff, making videos and having an online footprint in some way, even just photos that are backed up to Google Photos, being able to look back and look at evidence of the past is a really good way to realize how much things change. And then once you look at that, it helps you to realize that things are going to continue to change. I'm not just going to stay stagnant, because if you stay stagnant, you're automatically getting worse. Because if you do nothing, if you don't get better, you're getting worse because the entire rest of the world is getting better.
Oh, so by comparison, then you'd kind of be getting left in the dust if a person wasn't
It's like
evolving.
it's like the most because with money, the most efficient way to lose money is to do nothing with it because of inflation. So there's
Yeah,
that mental inflation of everyone's minds
yeah.
getting better.
The collective consciousness, I think they call it, evolving and growing, and yeah, yeah, absolutely. I like that. Paying attention, looking at the past. That actually reminds me of another one of Jordan Peterson's rules, which is compare yourself to who you were yesterday. Don't compare yourself to anyone else. It doesn't matter. Don't compare yourself to your friends, your neighbors. Compare yourself, if you're going to compare yourself, to who you were yesterday. And that was really meaningful to me because I can have a tendency to compare myself to other people and look for my acceptance in other people. That's been a habit that I've grown up with and had to work through as an adult. And that idea of just comparing myself to who I was yesterday means I'm almost always going to be stoked and excited because I'm always growing and learning and getting better. And even if I'm facing a problem that I don't have a solution to, every day I'm getting closer to my solution, even if I don't know what it's going to be.
Yeah,
So it's like every day there's something to be grateful for when I
totally.
do that.
Yeah, I have to say Jordan Peterson is just awesomely rad, and it's crazy because even in a lot of these conversations that I've had on the podcast and just in my program and just in life in general, you look at a lot of these things, these deep questions, the answers people have, and then you look at clips of Jordan Peterson, and he just says all of those different things, and
Mhm.
it's really cool. He's a genius.
I would agree with you. I do agree with you. And I think it's crazy how much he stirs up in people who don't like him. There are
Yeah,
people who
it's
just
funny.
absolutely hate him. It's wild. Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
think
read his stuff though, and I think, how can you not like the person who wrote that? That makes so much sense, you know?
Yeah, I think it
Keeps their own.
maybe it has a little bit to do with the fact that, the way he says things, he doesn't sugarcoat it at all. And I think in a world where
So
where
refreshing.
uh, where so much of what is said is covered in a thick layer of sugar, having this
Yeah.
stuff that's just you're just biting right into that lemon. It's
Hmm.
just there's it almost comes as like a shock to people because they're not used to that.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah, I
think,
like that. It's a good way of putting that.
but then I think the people that really like him, they see that and they just lean back and are just like, finally. But I
Yes.
think it really comes down to the mindset of the person and almost the maturity of the person. Because if someone's so set in their own beliefs and so set that that they see something that even slightly, because even if you don't agree with Jordan Peterson, I think that if you are really self-aware and not overly set in your beliefs, it should at least get you thinking about something, because he has this way of speaking where he sugarcoats nothing, but it really, really gets your mind going.
Yeah. Yep. It does for me too. I really enjoy listening to his stuff, and it's always a fun journey in my thoughts to see the wheels he gets turning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. You got any other zinger questions over there?
Oh, let's think here. Oh, let's see what's another one of those zingers. I could I could throw this one out here. I have not heard, asked this one in a while. It's if there was a young person who wanted nothing more to work for you, what would you want to see in them?
Could you say it again? If there's a person who wanted nothing more to work for me?
If there was a young person who wanted
Mhm.
nothing more than to come work for you, what would you
Mm.
want to see in that young person?
Oh, a willingness to learn. A willingness to learn. And if someone has a willingness to learn, everything else can be dealt with. You know, the skills can be taught, the experience can be had, the attitudes can be adjusted, all the other things that make working for someone successful can be worked out if someone has a willingness to learn. Someone who's not willing to learn, who wants to do it their way, who's not willing to look at the way they're doing it or take advice or even take criticism, that can be a skill, being able to take criticism, have someone look at your creation, your, or speaking from first person, someone to look at my creation or my work and then criticize it, say what I could have done better. That can be tough, but that's also a big learning
Yeah.
moment. Yeah. So that would be my answer. Someone who's willing to learn would be the one thing I'd want to see if I could only have one thing.
And that's crazy because that all circles back to the maturity thing we were talking about, of being able to look
Mm-hmm.
back and be self-aware. But
Mm-hmm.
I do know from experience, criticism is it can be very, very difficult to take, especially when it's something you worked really hard at and someone's like, you could do this better. And it's just like, they're right and you know they're right, but you don't want them
Yes.
to be right.
Oh, it hurts. Yep. I know that feeling. I remember when I was learning framing, I nailed off a roof and my nails poked through a little bit down below. And I was so proud of myself. It was the first roof I had nailed off, and it was a two-story, and I was up there right on the edge of the roof holding this nail gun, and I was so proud of myself. And then the guy I was working for, who I really looked up to, walked around me and he was like, "You got your nails poking out," and he made me go around with a pair of cutters and cut off every nail around the house.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
that was painful. And I so did not want him to be right, but there it was. He was absolutely right. There was no hiding it, no running away from it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
could have done
crazy.
it better. But then, like my dad used to teach me, he said, it doesn't matter if you make a mistake, just fix it. That's what's more important. You'd rather have someone who will fix their mistakes than someone who doesn't make any. Because if you have someone who doesn't make any mistakes, he would say, they're just hiding them really good. Because everybody makes mistakes. So you want someone who will fix them. That's more important. And that was good advice too from him. That was one of the nuggets of wisdom I got from my dad when I worked for him growing up. Because that took
That's a
away the sting.
really good thing. That's
Yeah, it took
really
away the
good.
sting out of making a mistake and then going up to him and being like, "Hey, Dad, I messed this up," you know? Because I always knew he'd be cool as long as I fixed it.
That's good. That's a
Yeah,
really powerful piece of advice.
yeah, I was grateful for that. I was grateful for the opportunity to grow up in that situation, working with my dad. Gave us something to connect on, and there's been some good lessons for me throughout my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's I do think that it's interesting how so much of what's needed in the world and what a lot of people and what like business owners want from people, it all so much of the world boils down to self-awareness, and
Hmm.
success boils down to it. Being able to take everything you've done wrong and learn from it, fix it, whatever. But it all comes down to being able to recognize it and not letting it overly anger you and and just be able to look at it objectively.
Hmm. Yeah, what kind of success are you thinking about specifically when you talk
I
about
I
awareness
was
being the
I
key?
was I was just using that as kind of a general term.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I'd agree with you. In general terms, yeah, I think awareness is a very key ingredient to success. And it could be said that a person's attitude and perspective has been said. A person's attitude and perspective shapes their experience, which attitudes and perspectives are other words for awareness.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
interesting because for me, I got into musical theater recently and doing a show and getting paid for it as my first musical theater role. It's been crazy. But
Wow.
like
Yeah. Wow.
but like looking back and like the amount I've had to learn to do, like it's been it's been interesting because there's such a big difference because I've been recording skits and stuff for years. So I act in front of a camera all the time. But the
Hmm.
differences are you'd think, "Oh, they're the same thing." No, it's so different because with a camera, when you've got your camera here and your microphone right there too, in the sad scenes or in the scenes where you're being quiet, you can actually be quiet. But when you're on
Yeah.
stage and the audience is way, way back, far away from you, you have to basically like loud quiet. And it's a really crazy thing to try to learn.
Hmm. Yeah, you got to project right from the diaphragm. You got to get your voice out there. Wow. How'd you like that overall? What did you think about that acting in the theater?
It's really, really fun. It's cool
Yeah.
to have these cast members who have been doing it for decades and being the new one in there. And it's interesting to see how much I've learned in these past few months, but also just looking at how good these other people are and like just really it's but one of the coolest things is to see how much fun people have as they're leaving the theater because we all line up by the door and just
Oh,
seeing all
nice.
these people coming out laughing and smiling and having a good time. That's been one
Yeah.
of the coolest parts is to see the impact it's had on people.
Oh, fun. What would you say was your favorite or one of your favorite aspects? Would it have been that?
I think that, but it's also just fun to get to yell and just
And not at your little brother?
and yeah, and get into character and just kind of like even the good thing is my character is a very angry character, so I can just for most of my scenes just take whatever's angering me at the time and just bring that to the forefront of my mind and channel that into my acting and then
Mhm.
just be really passionate about it and it but it also really helps me detach from my emotions because I can become a completely different character
Oh, interesting.
and learning to get into character can help when you need to detach from emotions just detaching from them because when you become a character my character is very different from me so I'm detaching from some emotions while harnessing
Hmm.
others and being able to do that
Right.
is a very valuable skill.
I could see how that would kind of have some things that translate to your personal life, being able to detach from some emotions and attach to other ones at will, on command.
Yeah.
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 Wow. And then what would you say was one of the challenging aspects of being in the theater?
The singing
Oh,
because
really?
I I love to sing. It's fun. It's
Yeah.
pretty much because I don't care what people think about me. But no, it's like
Way to
it's
go.
no, but it's just like for me, I've never been that good of a singer. I mean, I'm not, but learning to sing like these different things and like the show opens with me singing a song. So it's like it's more of a yell song. It's called Hell School. It's more of like a punk rock yelling kind of deal, but it's still interesting to do that and being and getting these with lines I didn't really struggle, but the thing I struggled with most was singing and then having choreography to do. And
Yeah.
like for me, my opening choreography isn't that crazy. But then there's a song called Saturday Night where we're out here doing these different dance moves like this while singing
Uh-huh.
and like doing
Uh-huh.
all this different stuff and trying
Yeah.
to get those down to the point where I can sing well well competently dancing to the beat
Right.
and not and when I'm dancing with multiple different people because I'm dancing at a line of like three people, I have to be so on because if it's just me and I mess something up, no one's going to notice. But when you have
Right.
comparisons,
Yes. Right.
then it raises that bar.
Well, I expect you're probably a lot smarter and your brain works a lot better now after going through all of that mental exercise than it did before. That sounds like
Yeah,
quite
it's
the skill set. So, wait, another question. Does a video exist of this singing number that opened the play?
so the entire show was recorded on opening night, and I think another night. I can send you a. I'll be getting a DVD of it at the end of the show. I can send you a
Okay.
copy of it via like Google Drive. Um, it
Yeah,
can't
I
be
was thinking too,
shared.
maybe.
It can't be shared on the internet publicly due to licensing because they license the script.
Mm, how about just a song? If you were to do just a portion so that your podcast listeners could just see that, maybe.
I might be able to do that. I might be able to put it up as like a an unlisted video or something like that.
Hmm.
Um,
That might be neat. Might be cool.
yeah, I can see. I don't know. I don't really feel like breaking copyright on my first show, but
No, don't do it. Don't do it if that's what would happen. Don't do
I
it.
don't know if well I'll find out what I can do.
Yeah.
Maybe if I like distort the audio so it sounds like all warped or something.
Well, I know that you're very loved by your family and friends, and there are a lot of people who didn't have a chance to see it and see the show, and they would probably love to see you singing and doing a
Yeah,
dancing
so
number.
what I would probably do is not share it like publicly online, but I'd just like put it as like an unlisted something on some on like either
I
YouTube or
see.
like Google Drive and then send it out to those people so it's not publicly available to the entire world but then so to avoid copyright but then the people who didn't get to see it can see it.
So there you have it, listeners to the conversation station. If you want to see Parker Emerald dancing and singing, shoot him a direct message, and he'll hook you up with a video.
Yeah, I will.
Cool. I'd message you if I wasn't already getting the whole thing. I'd totally message you. I want to see that.
Yeah. Yeah. The show is definitely fun, but it's
Nice.
the interesting thing is especially because I d- I yell. I'm a loud person, but I'm not like usually yelling a lot, like a lot. So by the end of that show, my voice is just completely gone
Mm, wow.
because I have to do a full as loud as I can yell twice, and then one of the times I have to do like five lines at a full yell,
Wow. Mhm.
and
Do you do
then
vocal warm-ups?
we
Mama made me eat my M&Ms and I am happy.
no, what we usually do for a warm up is there's a song that has the entire cast in it. So we usually just run the song. It's the song where I have to do the dancing. So we usually just run the song
Okay.
before the show to get warmed up.
Okay.
But no, usually but then like the thing is by like the final song, I'm just the final song I have to sing. My voice is so dead that I'm just like yelling as loud as I can just to get it out there to the crowd, because it's
Wow.
like it's really taxing on your voice when you go from singing and then you're yelling and then you're yelling again and then you're singing and then you're singing again and then you're being yelling a little bit and then you're singing. You know,
Sure. Yeah. Did you develop a nice sense of camaraderie with your other fellow actors and actresses?
So, decently, yeah. Some of the people in the show I haven't interacted with that much, but like, it's definitely gotten to the point where I have for a while. It was a little weird, obviously, because they all know each other
Right.
already,
And you were the new guy?
and I was the new guy, and they've known each other for like 20 years. But then
Yeah.
with like one of the guys who's been giving me rides to and from the show, I've connected with him pretty well because
Hmm.
got more time to just talk with him.
Hmm. Oh, good. Good. I love relationships that are built on shared experiences. They just seem to be stronger and resilient. And yeah, my longest friends were friends I went through some crazy stuff with back in the day.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, and I think
And
that's
fun
like
stuff, exciting stuff.
yeah the program I was have been in for like the last year, Apogee. I
Hmm.
one of my closest friends who I just talked about earlier. Um, we became close friends because we've been doing these challenges each month, and he lives on the other side of the country, but we have shared experiences, and
Mm.
it's really cool. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Do you guys do things together online? Do you have aspects of the program that are activities that you're doing together?
So not really activities, but every Friday we have a Friday call where we talk with a guest mentor, and then we talk after, and then we just talk
Hmm.
about whatever is happening in our lives and the challenges and stuff after that. And then
Yep.
for me with Kaleo, my friend, we probably video call once a day at least.
Oh, nice. Yeah. That's staying connected.
Yeah, yeah. So that's always pretty cool, and
Yeah.
it's it's always good. But then we'll text a lot and stuff. But yeah,
Man,
connection
friends
is
are and it's so important, huh? I was gonna say
it's
something similar to
so
that.
important. Yeah, connection
Yeah.
is so important. But one of the things is it's interesting to look at when you make a friend and then you talk to that person so consistently, and then you look back and you're like, how did I not talk to this person consistently before this? Because we had been in the program like 9 months before we started
Hmm.
talking consistently, or maybe like
Hmm.
no, uh maybe like 7 months. But like
Hmm.
it took a while for us to start talking consistently.
Hmm. I know that feeling. My closest friend was someone I grew up with in church and hardly ever talked to. And then when we were about 19, 20, we started hanging out because we were both in a similar program. And all of a sudden we were best friends. And I was like, how did we not be friends for the last 18 years? It was like that.
Yeah,
It's a good feeling.
totally. Yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
It's good. I think that means you found a good friend. I think that
Yeah.
means that's what
And
that
then,
means
but
when
and
that
then the
happens.
most I've it's been interesting for me the last week because we've basically talked on a daily basis for 4 or 5 months at this point. But then last week he was at a camp the entire week where he had no phone access, no signal or anything. So it's weird to see the differences where you're like, I used to not talk to this person, and now I'm back to that, and it feels so different than it did before.
Yeah. So what do you think is the most important character trait? And that may not be the right word, but for a friend, what would you look for? What do you think would be the most important thing for someone to have? What's the most, how about like this? In your friendship, what's the most valuable thing you look for in a friend?
So it's a really interesting question because for me when I'm going for friends, it's not like I'm just looking for similarities to myself, some sort of a shared experience. But then I usually don't go into a friendship looking for something, but then usually
Mhm.
partway in I kind of realize if it's going to how if we work as friends or not and whatever.
Mhm.
But for me with Kaleo, we kind of just realized that we're like the same person. We think the exact same way,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
we're like the same person but just in different parts of the country, raised a little differently.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
he was raised for until he was like 9 in Hawaii, and then he moved to Wisconsin,
Mhm.
which is like Hawaii to Wisconsin, quite the transition.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah,
But it's
that's almost
but
as opposite as it can get.
yeah, for me, I don't really know. I think it just kind of I think it's interesting for different people. I think that one of the biggest things is having a one of the biggest things for me is because I'm usually the person who responds the most or sends the most messages in a relationship.
Hmm.
But when someone does the same and like is even somewhat close to the same in terms of how much they reach out,
Oh, okay.
it really makes things it takes things to a whole nother level. But it's also
When
just
they
the will
reciprocate.
the but I think the biggest thing is the willingness to talk about deep topics
Yeah, I think that's a great one.
because I think that too much of people these days is just surface level, and I think that the second you get into deep conversation, that's the second that you know that first off this person is a good friend, but that's the second that they can become your best friend is the second
Yep.
that you get into the really deep things.
Yep.
And sometimes it takes a lot of time, but sometimes it's super quick. But being
Hmm.
able to get there is super important.
Yeah, it is important. And I think you're onto something really good there. I would say my answer would have been vulnerability in terms of what do I think is the most valuable aspect of a friendship? And that's really the same thing. Someone who I
Totally.
can be vulnerable with and talk about the sensitive um, things that I may be afraid to talk about or that are difficult to talk about, but that's where the meaningful connection is. And then someone else who's willing to do the same thing and open up and share about what's meaningfully going on in their life. That's when it goes from just being the kind of friend like, hey, we're friends. I have a bazillion friends in that category. You know,
Yeah.
the lady at the coffee shop who gives me my coffee could be my friend for that matter. But when there's that vulnerability, that openness, all of a sudden the friendship goes it gets so real and more meaningful.
Yeah, I think that that's what defines the two categories of friend because you have the oh, he's my friend, like just like the people that you just kind of know and you get along with and they're your friend. But then you have
Mhm.
the smaller amount of people that are your close inner circle who you trust
Yeah,
and are able to talk to, and they're the people that you contact and talk to more consistently than the other people combined.
yeah, yep. And what an important aspect of a healthy life experience I think friends are.
Totally.
So valuable to help us give us sounding boards to feel like we're connected and yeah, friends are so important. I'm really happy to hear you've got some close friends, Parker.
Yeah.
Stoked. I'm stoked for you.
Yeah, the most interesting part for me though with friendship is the fact that all of my close friends it's so funny. All of my close friends don't live close. I mean, my closest my physically closest close friend is an hour
Mhm.
away, but
Okay.
but then my closest friend like lives in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So
It just
it's
goes to show that proximity isn't essential. You don't have to be close to someone to be
yeah,
intellectually or emotionally close to them.
totally.
Yeah. Like right now, we're separated by a massive ocean. But I've had moments of feeling really close to you during this podcast. This has been great.
Yeah, it's cool.
I
But
liked your
another
questions. I really appreciate those. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was gonna
no
say I really
go
appreciate the zinger questions you asked.
yeah, it's
And I was glad to turn them around too.
oh yeah, that's always fun.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um One of the interesting things that I've noticed though is the difference between virtual and physical connection. Like I when you can be super close to someone and you only know them you know them mostly virtually, but when you see them in person, you get
Mhm.
so much closer to them so much quicker because you can
Mhm.
you can almost feel their energy more when you're with them rather than separated by 1,000 miles and an internet connection.
Totally.
It does definitely change things. Like I've
Yep.
met Kaleo in person once at in event for Apogee, and
Mm-hmm.
it's so cool. It's so cool to see friends that you're close to, but you only see them virtually. Seeing them in person
Mm-hmm.
is so awesome, and that's what's
Mm-hmm.
got me so excited for going to Wisconsin, because when we were at that event, it was only what, 2 days, and super packed full and busy. So we didn't really
Mm-hmm.
get much one-on-one time. So,
Mm-hmm.
but it's going to be really awesome to have an entire 2 weeks.
Oh, you're going?
I'm going to Wisconsin for 2 weeks this summer.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's the first I heard about it. Cool.
Yeah. Super cool.
Yeah. And you're gonna spend those 2 weeks with your buddy Kaleo?
Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna be
I'm
fun.
staying with him and his family at his house, and
Yeah. Right on.
um him him and his dad are going to plan some fun things. But it's like I'm excited for those fun things, but I'm just also excited to just do nothing.
Sure. I can appreciate that. One of our favorite restaurants here in Hawaii is called Kaleo's.
Yeah, I've heard Kaleo is kind of is a pretty common name in Hawaii.
Maybe besides the restaurant and your friend, I haven't heard it anywhere else.
Huh.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's that's funny. Yeah. I think Kaleo is a pretty cool name though.
I agree.
Yeah. Man.
Yep.
My yeah, and my voice since I did have a show last night, my voice is like run down just from this call, but I mean, my voice is usually run down after a 2 hour long conversation or an hour long conversation. But it's
Yeah.
funny. It's funny to see how like my voice has definitely gotten conditioned to, because there's no way I could have um done a podcast after my first show.
Mhm.
But now it's like
So you're getting
I can
stronger.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
man.
That's great, man. Well, I can't wait to see the video clip or the show you were in. That's gonna be fun.
It's so funny. It's like just hilarious.
I used to do a theater with our church growing up. I was a part of the theater group they had there.
That's awesome.
It was quite a thing because I have a natural, well, I have a learned fear of speaking in public. I just don't like it. Or if I'm in a room full of people and everyone's looking at me and I'm the person talking, it just feels kind of uncomfortable. But that was a great way to practice getting through that, was being in the plays that the church did and getting up there and having to project and be big, because what I think is a big emotional expression isn't that big on stage, for someone sitting in the back especially. And Liana tells me all the time, she's like, Joe, smile. And I'm like, I am smiling. And then she shows me a picture of myself. I feel like I'm smiling, but it's not quite as big in real life as it feels. So that was good practice for me,
Yeah.
speaking and being up on stage and being loud
It's
and expressive.
interesting because for me, I think you probably know this, but I don't really. That's something that I really don't struggle with, and I'm kind of the complete opposite. Like, love
Okay.
talking. I'll have
Mm-hmm.
I'll happily be the center of Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um,
I've seen that,
I'm
and
just
to it, I kind of
generally
admire
loud.
that.
Yeah, but it's interesting to see how like for me, it's just a fun way to be loud and just be out there and have a good time, be and being the focus and like really feeling the crowd's energy. And then it's interesting for me to look at other people who are nervous about it. And for me, it's a little bit hard to like fathom, because I'm like, it's easy. You just do it.
Right?
But
You
then
just do
some,
it. Yeah.
but, but yeah, it's definitely cool to see, because I've been in class plays before where there's 30 people in the cast,
Mm-hmm.
and half of them are like, I am say my lines. But it's interesting. It's really cool to work with people who have been doing this for years, so they all enjoy it, and
Mm-hmm.
it's cool to see the differences of like the skill and just the knowledge of what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I would have been one of the nervous people. once upon a time.
Yeah. But yeah, I think finding like even for people who are nervous, finding some way of getting that self-expression out there into the world. You could even just
Mhm.
set a camera in front of yourself and just talk like this basically. You could do
Mhm.
anything really, but finding a way to express yourself to the world, not just to your close group of friends or
Mhm.
yourself, can be really good to, and then it gives you a tool to like something to get better at that's a more general thing, that's more of a life skill, because you could get better at basketball, but just being able to express yourself is a much more of a life skill.
It really is. It really is. And that circles back to something you mentioned at the beginning of the show, where you would look back on your conversations in Discord and you would see how you had learned and grown even in a few months. And that would be a tool for that also, looking
Yeah,
back and seeing how you've learned and grown.
it is. Yeah, it's cool.
What do you think when you look back on your first podcast or your second podcast? I know you have a little bit of time between them. So do you look back on them and see ways that you've grown since then?
Oh yeah, I despise my branding in those first two episodes. If you look at the
Oh,
ones on YouTube,
yeah.
it's the same gray color scheme, the same color of gray that I have now. But then I've got like green and blue, and it looks like I'm running a gaming channel. And I just look back and I'm like, what was I thinking? This isn't a gaming channel. This is a podcast where I highlight cool people.
Yeah.
So, but that's the biggest thing. I think I'm still definitely getting better at like just talking into a camera with someone and not
Mhm.
stuttering at all. Like I noticed last episode I didn't do as well of a job as I had in the past, but it's the biggest thing has just been the branding. And then
Yeah.
when I told you about my podcast and wanting to have you on, and then you pointed out that I had forgotten a letter in my logo, I was just like, oh my god, how did I manage that? It was so funny.
Live and learn. But I think that boldness of being willing to put yourself out there and know that you're going to look back and see things that and think exactly that. Like, how could I have done that? Being willing to go through that is what's going to help you learn and grow and really like make use of this whole um, video. What's the word I'm looking for? Platform.
Yeah.
You know, if you waited till you had it perfect to do it, a person might never ever do it. So in order to get started, they have to
You're
have a
never, well,
certain kind
here's
of
the thing, you're never going to have
boldness.
it perfect. It's always going to be changing. There
Never.
are people that are a
Yes.
thousand episodes into their podcast and completely pivot in a different direction.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's people who will paint something or build something, and they will always look back and be like, ah, I could have done that better or different. And if a person's not willing to take that kind of self criticism or to see how they could have improved, they might never do anything, you know? So
Yeah.
so much better to be willing to just go for it and learn. So
Yeah.
I
And
salute you to that end,
thank
Parker.
you.
Way to
Yeah.
go.
I
Yes.
have uh, I have a little concept for an episode that I'm gonna be doing sometime in July, when I'm in
Yeah.
Wisconsin, and I'm gonna tease it here for the audience now. Everyone listening at home, I'm gonna do a Hot Ones style episode with a guest. So we're gonna sit down and eat super spicy food while doing an interview. It's gonna be crazy.
Whoa. Are you going to interview your buddy at all?
I'm good. That's what it's gonna be because we were trying to figure out
All
how could we
right.
make it fun. So we're gonna be eating overly spicy food. I'm gonna die, and yeah,
I'm definitely going to tune in for that one.
yeah, that one's gonna be fun. It's gonna be interesting to see how it's set up because it'll be. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited to do is to do that one because it'll be my first in person episode because all my
Yeah.
episodes have been virtual. I'm really
Yeah.
hoping to get some more physical episodes done soon
Mhm.
because it's
Mhm.
it's fun. And whenever you do a physical episode, it's always a different camera setup and learning how to set up for a physical podcast. Like
Mhm.
I'll have to set up like a phone or something to be my second camera because when
Yeah.
you need a camera on both people unless you could have three angles. You could have a wide shot of the two people, but then you want one that
Mhm.
shows their faces so that you can have that
Right.
connection.
Yep.
But I'm excited. I think the Hot Ones concept is gonna be really funny because he has some of the Hot Ones hot sauces, and it's gonna be hilarious because I do okay with spicy, but like it's not like I dislike it, but I'm not a super spice person, so I'm gonna be dying and it's gonna be hilarious.
Wow. You might should start practicing your tolerance level.
No, no, that would be cheating the
Ooh.
viewers.
I think you're going to be pushed to your limit, even if
Oh,
you were to bump your tolerance a little
I'm
bit.
gonna be pushed to my limit. It's gonna be,
Yeah.
I'm gonna need an entire bowl of ice cream or something.
Oh, yeah, at least. Well,
We're
I
gonna
mean, you should
have
probably
to
just have a big,
a big milkshake just sitting there to take sips of.
just in case. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, see,
Oh,
here's
that's
the thing.
exciting.
My mouth can handle it fine, but my lips will just burn, and I'm just like, ah.
And you're going to try and do an interview in that state.
Yeah, it'll probably
It'll be exciting.
it probably won't be super coherent, but who cares? It'll make things interesting. It'll be a
It will.
special edition.
Yep. I love it.
Yeah. I think we're kind of wrapping things up, so yeah.
I think so.
Thank you so much for coming on here. This has been so fun.
Yeah. Thanks, Parker. Thanks for having me, man. It's been great. It's been great to see you and chat with you. Yeah, really grateful to be your cousin once removed.
Yeah, we'll bring you back at some point.
You bring me back? Okay, thanks. Thanks, man. Just let me know when you're ready to do that, and we'll
Okay,
bring you back.
yeah. Yeah, I'll bring you back.
And then I'll just be, I guess at that point, I'll just be your cousin once, because I wouldn't be removed anymore. Just be
Yeah.
cousin once.
He was my
Joe, he's my
cousin
cousin
once.
once.
He was my cousin once.
That's
Wait,
not any better.
but then that implies you've been removed. He was my cousin once, and then we brought him back. So
Oh,
now he's what? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you
I
guys
think
for
I'll just call you
watching.
cousin. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you guys for watching. I'm Parker Emerald, and this has been the Conversation Station.